Thanks for tuning in and welcome back. If you haven't seen part 1 of this video yet, go and watch it now about how Feedback Factory can multiply your time, energy, and impact. Parents love it, kids learn more, and they become better learners through a growth mindset. So leave a like on this video if you could, and let's dive in. So this is the basic Feedback Factory for giving feedback on any subject area. There's both an Excel and a numbers version of all of these Feedback Factories. I just prefer to work in numbers for ease of use and all the pretty colors, but the functionality is exactly the same in both. And you start with the success criteria first, so what do you actually want the kids to do? Check the link in the corner and the description if you want to see a video on the power of success criteria. And using leveled success criteria, going from basic to more advanced, lets everyone enjoy a measure of success and also have actionable next steps for their improvement. And each time I create success criteria for a unit and I put them in Feedback Factory, I also add them to my assessment lesson card on Plan Perfect. If you haven't heard of Plan Perfect yet, here is a video explaining it. So for this task, kids were writing a poem in the style of Dr. Seuss. And the success criteria were to end each line with rhyming words, include some nonsense or made-up words, use questions in their lines, and repeat specific words to match the style. The way you give feedback on student work is to either put a slash, which is kind of like a tick, if they achieve that success criteria, or an X if they didn't achieve it. And Feedback Factory will put either the achievement sentence in their comment or the actionable next step to improve for that success criteria automatically in the comment over here. And if you leave a box empty, it will put neither there. So you can be really specific about the feedback you give and not give so that we don't overwhelm students with improvements. So for this first student, achieved this success criteria, he didn't achieve this one. He did this, but not this one. And then there is space over here to get more specific with any examples, which will put it into the affirmations over here, or an improvement comment for something else that he could be doing. If you notice a lot of kids are making the same sort of errors or are achieving something extra, then you have room here to add extra success criteria after the fact. And then if they achieved the achievement sentence, then you would tick it, and that would put that sentence into the final comment. And if you put an X in the improvement column, then it will put the improvement sentence into the final comment. So you can see how quick it is to give students a highly detailed comment with just a tick and a cross, a couple of keystrokes, instead of typing out multiple sentences laboriously. As a tip, I'd suggest leaving the improvement comment being finalized until you've started marking students' work, because sometimes the improvement that a lot of kids need to have won't be obvious until you've seen their work. If it's something like a quiz that you are marking and wanting to give feedback on, putting the question that each success criteria corresponds to in the column can help you very quickly mark that work, because if they got question 3 wrong and you know there's a red herring answer in there and they chose that option, then it's probably because they didn't read through all the multiple choice questions properly. So that can be a very fast way to give feedback. And if you realize there's a clearer way to phrase something, you can update one of the criterion and it automatically updates all the relevant comments that have used that success criteria. As I said in the feedback overview video, Feedback Factory has best practice built in. It's all in actionable language, makes you really specific with how you teach. It avoids empty praise like well done, and it's achievable and in their zone of proximal development, which encourages a growth mindset. It also makes it really easy to see if there's an overbalance of improved comments. As you can see, it's broken down here, and this is too much for one kid to be working on at one time. Then you can copy this final comment and paste it wherever you need, onto your online system, in an email, printed and hand out, whatever you like. There is one small workaround if you're using the numbers version of Feedback Factory. If you're posting onto Schoolbox, sometimes specifically they can have a quirk where they don't recognize the line breaks. So it's a 1 or 2 minute workaround to copy it into Excel first and then copy from there. For some quick formative assessment data, there are totals at the bottom of each column. So you can see what most kids have already got and what you can move on from, or what you might need to revisit. The light-colored cells are the things that you can edit in every version of Feedback Factory. So you can obviously name the success criteria and the details for each criterion, and change the greeting, the sentence that introduces the achievement and the improvements as well. If you don't have a specific catchy strategy that they're working on, then you can just leave that cell blank. Otherwise, it will put in a specific improvement using that strategy if you need it. You can record the student's grade or progression point achievement in this column here. So in this basic version, you can use it to generate comments for a particular task. Once you've given the feedback, you can delete it and then reuse it for another task, or you can duplicate this sheet for the next task to save your previous feedback. But for the subject-specific factories that we'll look at next, there's lots of space to generate and save all the feedback you give on tasks. These work on exactly the same principles as the basic feedback factory, but these are more subject-specific. And any of these can be repurposed and renamed to whatever subject you want. But for example, the science factory could easily be a humanities factory, or another subject that tends to have some larger project or inquiry work. The factory imports the student names from this table, where you can specify a student's preferred name as well. And then they automatically populate the assessment task success criteria areas, where you can actually generate the comment in every subject area. Each of these subject factories has room for a bunch of assessment tasks that you might be giving feedback on. That way you can refer back to previous feedback you've given if you ever need to put it into an end of semester report comment or even continuous reporting. And these subject-specific feedback factories also have an extra column for any other feedback that you might be wanting to give. Looking at this English feedback factory, it's broken down into a few different curriculum areas, but these can all be renamed, obviously, and repurposed for whatever your focuses are. The writing whole piece tab here has a mega table with lots of criteria because of the number of elements in a full writing piece that you might want to be giving feedback on. And if you're a secondary teacher and giving more extended feedback regularly, this gives you the ability to address lots of criteria at once, almost like a comment bank for what you're focusing on. And like I mentioned before, if you are using a summative quiz for an area like grammar, it can be useful to list the questions that each success criteria applies to above those cells, so that you can see that if they missed a couple of these questions, you can check whether that success criteria applies to what they need to improve on. This science feedback factory has 4 main areas: matter, space, adaptation, and light, but as I mentioned, everything can be renamed and reused. It includes comment generators for projects or inquiry units, as well as smaller tasks. It looks like a rubric, but it presents your feedback in a much more accessible comment format. In this one, you can give a tick or a cross as normal, but there's the option to put a dash in. This is for when they have met the success criteria, but perhaps not as fully as you might have liked. Then they'll get a less affirming positive sentence, as well as the improvement sentence to work on. So if I just clear all the feedback in this one and put in a dash for this made-up success criteria, you can see that they get the partially affirming comment in the achievement sentence, as well as the improvement under there. The maths feedback factory has the 3 main areas from the Australian curriculum: number and algebra, measurement and geometry, statistics and probability, and some extra tabs for number facts for fast recall testing, and an inquiry unit 1 as well. But these are just titles that can be changed. And in maths specifically, using the other column here, the extra ability to give feedback that isn't in the basic feedback factory template, that can be used to specify any question they got wrong if you want them to have another attempt at that specific one. For example, apply this feedback to question 9, and it appears under their improvements. It also includes a number facts or multiplication tables record for those quick tests to see what their memory and recall is like. There's room to use success criteria if you want to focus on specific strategies, but you can just leave this blank and use each task column to record their scores from week to week. And if you look later on in the video at the Gradebook feedback factories, then there'll be one summary table in the Gradebook tab that totals all of their scores for the number facts recall and gives you an average score. And a quick recommendation, timestables.me.uk is a great resource for generating randomized quick times tables quizzes. There's a link in the description. And if each of your students has a device, they can use the online grid version. It has the correct answer mixed amongst the 8 most common incorrect answers. So it really tests their accuracy. I would have them do 20 questions each week and show me their results so I can keep track. There's also a feedback factory for each subject with an integrated gradebook. So this gradebook will automatically take the topic of the assessment, the date, and the score each kid got to work out their rolling average here in this subject table automatically. So every time you record a grade down here, it populates and totals in the gradebook tab for an automatic summary. You can set the grade thresholds here for which score gets which grade, and these can be customized to whatever system your school uses. These numbers are percentages, as in all of the achievement summary columns over here, but I've left the percentage symbol out so that you can copy paste these scores into whatever reporting software you might be using, which usually doesn't like any symbols. Unfortunately, this gradebook feedback factory is only available as a numbers file for Mac because Excel couldn't handle all the genius of this. And then you will have optional weightings as well, if that's what your school uses, for an accurate summary of all of their work. You can get any of these feedback factories through the link in the description called How to Get This. These templates come in a few different versions, as you've seen. There's the basic feedback factory, the subject-specific ones that can be repurposed to whatever you need, and the subject-specific ones with an integrated gradebook. There's also a couple of bundles. You can get all 3 subject feedback factories at once, and a second bundle with all 3 subject feedback factories and integrated gradebooks. When you buy these templates, they will download automatically for you. As you might imagine, it takes quite a bit of time and energy to build, test, rebuild, and retest for all of these feedback factories to make sure they're useful for lots of different types of teachers. So feel free to set your own price on the online buying platform and support the channel that way. And if possible, you could charge it to your school budget. And if you end up not liking it, you can just email me through the address in the description and you'll get a full refund. So there you go. That's a walkthrough of how to use the various feedback factories to multiply your time, energy, and impact. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.